Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting organizations. For more information about creating your own television program with Access Fort Wayne, call 421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to our show, The American Veteran. I'm Dewald, your host. Carl Fowler is our co-host. And also joining us today is Bob Rose. He's a member of the Korean War Veterans Association. Today is Steve Dewald. He's a World War II B-17 pilot. Steve, it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on our show. Welcome.
Well, I'm certainly pleased to be here this morning.
Well, thank you. You joined the Army Air Force, or did you just join the Army and they put you in the Air Force?
No, I joined 6 months after Pearl Harbor Day, and I joined the Air Force. And at the time I was in college, they gave me a deferment, not official, but it says go back and we'll call you when we want you. So I got to go back and finish the whole football season, and was called the following February of '53.
53, okay. And
Excuse me, 43.
43, yeah. I was going to say 53 is Korean War.
Getting into your war.
Yeah.
yeah,
Only 10 years off.
okay. And they put you in a B-17 or
No, went through, I had an interesting, first I went down to Miami Beach for a month of training, and that was interesting because we played football all the time. They found there were 112,000 people in the Air Force at that time in Miami Beach, and each one of the little flights got their own football team together, and we played touch football. And I don't think I ever did any training down there. The commanding officers of your particular group would challenge somebody else, and we had all just been called out of college. So yeah, I think we had one All-American on our touch football team. We had a pretty good team and went all around.
Good, okay.
My next step was sent to an all-girls college, Winthrop College in Rock Hill, South Carolina, which is tough to. I thought, this military is great. There were 1,600 girls and 320 cadets, but that was just to bring us up to snuff on what some education that they needed to make us officers and gentlemen. I think it's to make us gentlemen, maybe.
Right. So then you started flight training as a cadet then?
Started flight training then. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, went through a whole month of testing. I never took so many tests. They'd sit down and say, this one takes 12 minutes. 12 minutes, somebody come by and give you another one. This is going to be a 15-minute test. We took tests like that. And then there were also physical tests. Mm-hmm. I can remember one in particular. There was a little hole about 3/4 of an inch in diameter, and you had a stylus, and you were supposed to put the stylus in the hole without touching it while they asked questions. And every time you touched it, lights flashed and bells rang. And I would just see how well you can maintain
Be steady.
attention.
Yeah.
Well, and so you didn't get distracted with,
Sure.
so in case they're shooting at you, you ought to be able to talk right.
Mm-hmm. So what was your primary trainer?
The PT-17, the Stearman.
Yeah, there's no double wing Stearman.
Nice.
Good
plane.
airplane, right?
Oh, it flew 90 mile an hour, up and down, upside down, whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought that was sort of like a good one to train with, because that seemed to be indestructible too, like the B-17. So.
Well, that primary trainer had a wood frame, didn't it? I think
I don't know. It was certainly canvas.
canvas.
'Cause I
over a
know-
wood frame, I believe.
When I came back from overseas, they were selling them, and I think you could buy 3 of them for $1,700, I think, something like that. And I was all set to buy one and fly my wife home from her honeymoon, but then I found out that they would not pass the inspection. You had to do a lot of reworking.
Lots of updating and so forth.
And
Now they're selling for over 100,000, aren't they?
crazy.
Yeah.
Both of my sons have planes, and you get a plane 20 years old, and it costs more than it did when it was new.
Well, it's new, sure. Upkeep.
Must have been quite a thrill when they put you in a B-17 and
I think about that the first time I saw it. I thought, what a huge plane. How could something like that get off the ground? Now the fighter planes are that big.
And carry as much load, too.
Oh, yeah, probably more.
More, sure.
how fast were these 17s?
They cruised at 150.
And had quite a range on them too, didn't they? A couple thousand miles of range.
Yeah, well, I flew across the ocean, took our plane over there, and we flew a long mission would be 10 hours. And so
That is a long mission.
but,
You say you flew across the ocean in the B-17?
yeah.
You made a stop up at Thule or what? You didn't do that nonstop, did you?
No, well, I stopped in Iceland. Reykjavik.
Iceland, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and then on up to England.
Hmm. But that was a long-range plane, and it carried lots of gas.
Well, yeah, gas. Of course, when you're not carrying bombs, you can carry a lot more fuel.
Hmm. Yeah.
Let's get into the operations of a bombing run. How many people's on a crew on a plane?
We had 10 people. There was a pilot, co-pilot, navigator, and bombardier were the 4 officers, and then you had 6 enlisted men, which were a ball turret, gunner in the belly of the plane, and one in the top. He was also the flight engineer. You had waist gunners and tail gunner.
They had what I think was 10 50 caliber.
Yeah. Mhm. I can remember shooting those. when we'd go on practice runs, it seems like the pilots that were along liked to get on the guns more than the gunner.
They'd get up and go back and shoot, eh?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a good training over here in the States, and we were given a brand new plane in Lincoln, Nebraska, and destination Europe. And that was something, because a brand new plane doesn't have any identification on it. Okay. Oh, I thought, this is one opportunity we can buzz without being caught.
Nobody's going to report you. Don't have your number.
We came through. I flew through Fort Wayne and flew down below the church steeples to see my wife, or my fiancée at that time. I flew up to see my uncle up at Sylvan Lake, and it was fall. And he sent a picture then of the tree, and all the top half of the leaves were blown off for the problem.
I was going to say.
We did a lot of dumb things. I was not proud of those things. But,
But it was fun,
we,
right?
we were young. My crew members were, the enlisted men were 17, 18, and 19 years old. And I was 21. And so they were all kids.
They make you, what, first lieutenant?
I was second lieutenant going over. When I came back, I was a captain
Captain.
in the end, yeah. That, what happened was they selected some crews to be lead crews, and we happened to be one of them. So that's how I probably get my promotions a little faster than others.
I noticed that picture there, looks like there's a lot of corporals as your enlisted personnel.
Well, they may have been there, but they had to be a sergeant to fly combat. So they got their promotions before we got over.
I see.
I noticed you had a pretty good sized crew here.
Well, there's 10 of us there. It's a standard crew, and we got together at our house about 3 or 4 years ago, and I think 4 of them were dead, but the rest of them showed up, and we had a real nice time reminiscing. And
Well, from World War II, that was a good group showing up as far as age is concerned. And that.
yeah, well, again, now there aren't that many guys around who've been flying B-17s.
I know, so I'm very pleased that you're here with us today.
Really.
I really am.
I'm happy I can talk a little bit. My voice isn't very good lately.
Okay.
He's doing just fine.
Which one of these is you?
I'm the good-looking guy right there. This one right here.
In the dark shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I picked you out.
Okay.
You was in England in 43, and you flew
And I was there in 44.
44 and flew missions then the rest of the war. Yeah. How many missions did you fly?
30.
30 of them. Did your plane get shot up anytime?
A couple times. I think the worst we had, they shot off. Our left aileron was blown completely off, and we lost an engine. There was a hole big enough to walk through in our vertical stabilizer, and I think the crew chief counted later on. He says there were 125 holes in the plane. But that was a tough plane, and it always came back. We could have come back on 2 engines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough plane, and it kept right on flying, didn't it?
Yeah.
That makes it a little harder to pilot, though, with your rudder gone, right?
Well, yes, but
You gotta do it with the engines.
it wasn't something that was heroic or different, and we were trained to do all that stuff. And I think most of these people that are honored for their heroism were doing the job that they're trained to do, and it was good. I guess maybe that's being a hero, to do what you're supposed to do.
Most of the bombing runs were made during daylight, weren't they?
We flew during the daylight, you're right, and the British flew at night. So when the typical bomb run that we made, it'd get up, they'd call us very early in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. We'd go down and have breakfast, and we usually went over to the chapel and then went to be briefed. And the enlisted people went to their briefings for the gunnery and all that stuff. And then we got together, they hauled out to our plane, and they were responsible for checking the guns and checking the flyability of the plane. I guess that was supposed to have been done anyway, but that was our responsibility. And then usually just about the time the sun was coming up, we would take off. And as I said, probably the shortest mission I had was 7 hours, and most of them were 9 or 10.
You was flying all the way into Berlin, then, wasn't you?
Yeah.
That many hours in the air, he was going all the way.
Yeah. We were fortunate. At the time we were there, we had a lot better fighter covers than the early bombers did. The fighters hit them pretty badly. conversely, we had more flak because as the Germans were pushed back, they just brought all our guns back
So it
further.
became more concentrated.
Right, so we got a lot of flak, and there's hardly a mission that we didn't get hit with flak.
Yeah. Did you get protection from the red tails?
I don't know who.
Tuskegee
I know who
Airmen?
they were, but I really don't know because they were up above us.
They were
And
too far out of sight. You
well,
probably concentrating on what you're doing.
well, we're flying formation. It's critical if you're leading that you maintain a constant attitude, altitude, and speed, or those guys can't fly formation.
Right.
So that was my main job, especially over the bomb run. The bomb sight would not work unless everything was constant.
Yeah. Steady pace.
That was important, and that was a little difficult when people are shooting at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
You was lead
Yeah.
plane then?
I can remember one mission where we were flying, and they used to tell us if you had a good formation, there was a good defense against fighters. And we were flying, I see fighters, a bunch of Focke-Wulfs, hit the group ahead of us, which was just 1 minute ahead of us. And they went down through it. Some of the planes went down in flames. I kept calling back to my tail gunner, how's our formation? He says, you can see it, there's only 6 of us here. Well, we're supposed to have 36. And I didn't know that when we had taken off and circling around to assemble, that some of the planes weren't able to get off of our field. And so as a result, we went out there with a small group.
Yeah.
When he said there's only 6 of us, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty terrible to see one of them go down.
That was bad to see them go down in flames.
Yeah.
My 6th mission, we were flying over the oil fields of, Pulaski, and ours was Belen, where we were going, Mersburg, in that area. And we got hit pretty hard, and I was flying in the last element on the right wing of the guy, and my good buddy was on the left wing. Well, the man we were flying with got a direct hit, and that's all I saw. I saw my friend going down in smoke, and I felt real bad about that. But we still, he made it. He was in a prison camp, and we're still friends.
Okay.
When we used to go down to Florida every year, we'd see him there.
Have a reunion down there?
He lived in Miami,
Oh, okay.
and so every year we'd get together.
Well, it's nice to keep those friendships going.
As long as our people are living, dying off. I still keep in touch with my co-pilot.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that you hit the oil fields. You mentioned Pulaski. You guys
I
didn't.
said Pulaski. That was wrong.
That was B-24 Liberators. Right?
That's right. And that was down in the south. I knew that was northern, but that was not what we had.
Okay.
I was trying to think of the various ones that Mersburg and
Mersburg, yeah.
Missburg and Bolin and those up in the northern oil fields.
Sure. Did lots of damage to the Germans. They ran a little short, I think, on petroleum.
I hope we did.
I'm sure you did.
But, a lot of the bombing was done with the radar. And how accurate that was, I don't know. But that's why we bombed in pattern bombing. The whole 36 ship group would drop at once.
Cover the whole area.
Well, that's sort of like shooting a shotgun.
Yeah, you're going to hit something. Yeah.
Now, was there, you was in a group of 36.
Yes.
Now, would it be another group of 36?
That was amazing to me. There was like a highway in the sky, and when we would I'd take off first, and it was always dark, and we'd fire a very pistol, flares, a particular
Color.
2 reds and a green or whatever, so our plane knew, and they'd take off, and I'd circle, and they'd keep circling until they all got up and could form into the form, and then we would take off for a point that we were supposed to be there, and I marveled at the accuracy. That was within seconds. You know, you weren't allowed a minute deviation. You got to this particular point and picked up the whole division then, and every minute, a minute interval for groups of 36 planes would be a net,
Form up in there,
and
huh?
they'd just be a whole lineup, just like a highway of them. And you know, when they'd say, today there were,
They'd fly hundreds of planes at a time, wouldn't they?
you know, as I remember reading it, well, there were 2,000 planes, and there were planes all over up there. And then above them were the fighters. The fighters, because of their limited range, would have their bases in southern England. And they would take off long after we had and try to meet us and just be there for the time we were over the dangerous area.
Sure, they'd catch up to you in no time.
Yeah, they were nice, and they were always over us, and if there was ever an enemy fighter, they always called them bandits in the area, then we'd see these belly tanks drop down through us, and drop those and go for them.
I read somewhere where the Germans started ramming bombers with their own plane. Did you run into any of that?
No, I'm here. No, we didn't. I do remember once, though, flying along, and all of a sudden, this strange little plane comes up right on my wing. And I looked at it, and all I could think of is Buck Rogers. You know, we didn't know anything about jets or anything, and that was one of the German prototypes, and I could have shot him with my service pistol.
I'm surprised your gunners didn't pick up on him.
Well, that's what I asked him. Nobody knew what it was. And so then I asked him, why didn't you shoot him? Well, they didn't know. And why didn't I just take my pistol out and shoot him?
Yeah, close, huh? Yeah. Strange things happen in a war that way.
Oh, there are very many of. I lost one crew member, not through him being killed, but on the ground when they were checking their guns, electronic firing. Somebody had walked by and stepped on the string of 50 caliber ammunition and had gone down into the slot. And when he fired off 3 rounds, killed a guy in the next plane. And of course, they pulled my man off right away, and he didn't get to fly with us anymore.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
It wasn't his fault.
Probably grounded.
Well,
Permanently, maybe.
yeah, it wasn't his fault. I think the gunnery officer that came to check walked through and did it, but you know,
Okay.
so it's the officers. They aren't going to cut him.
Well, you know, the person has to check where they walk and what's going on around them,
We felt very bad about that.
I'm sure.
Sure. What altitude did you fly on the bombing run?
Oh, around 30,000. It varied, but they were all up high.
How many thousand?
30,
Okay.
which presented
Pretty cold.
problems. It's 40 below zero, and the air is very rarefied. It's very difficult to fly formation in there because nothing responds quickly. You pull back on the wheel, you don't go up for a while, and you go up, or you back off on the throttle and you keep right on going. So it's a lot of anticipation and just very minor corrections to keep flying right.
You had to wear your chutes at all times,
Well, yeah.
or was it up to the pilot?
Well, if you don't want to wear your chute, and you get shot down, you're going to wish you had one.
Yes, you're right.
No, I think everybody wore them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can remember we all had flak jackets too. And I can remember my co-pilot and I, we sat on ours. We wanted to protect the family jewels.
We've talked to some of these here guys that fly in choppers in Vietnam. They did the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
They sitting on them, gunner at the door.
Yeah.
They have their flak jackets underneath them. So,
Well, it worked. I never got shot. Got very close. I had a couple of them. One of them just came right across in front of me, and the steering, the flight column, whatever you call it, that got hit. We had another one just hit right in the middle of the windshield and splattered it. But I never got hurt. Nobody in my crew got hurt.
for 30 missions, that's doing pretty good.
That's a heck of a record.
You lived a charmed life at that time.
Well, I did, and I didn't have any fear about it. Now I got scared, when things are hitting your plane and you get scared. But I always felt that we're going to come back, and I felt very comfortable because it brought me very close to my Lord. We prayed a lot and had a lot of faith that things are going to work.
I think most people in combat, and that's whether you're in the air or on the ground or out on the sea, are pretty close to the Lord when they are in the combat.
I guess they say there's no atheist in a foxhole.
That's exactly right.
I had a bombardier that claimed to be an atheist, and we got hit pretty hard one day, and in fact they were up in the nose of the plane, and all of a sudden my navigator, I'm hit, I'm dying. Well, what happened was he had a piece of shrapnel hit him in his flak suit, put a hole in his flak suit, and didn't hurt him.
Didn't penetrate the skin.
No, so he thought he was dying.
He felt the jar, though.
Yeah. But after that mission, my bombardier says, I thought I was an atheist, but I believe now.
Changed his mind. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for your service.
Well,
I sure appreciate you being with us today.
Well, I'm honored to be here with you guys.
You had a picture, a wedding picture. You got that handy?
Well,
Towards the back, I think.
was it? Well, whatever is the back or the front of this thing. Well, where is it? There, right in the middle. Neither one of us were right.
Let's see if we can get a shot of that. Good looking couple. How many years ago? 68?
68.
68 years ago. I think that's
Congratulations.
68 years ago and 7 children.
Oh boy.
7. Yeah, I know about that. I come from a family of 8 children.
Yeah, well, you know about a big family. Well, that wasn't a big family at that time.
Yeah.
Steve, we're out of time.
Good.
Appreciate you.
I enjoyed this.
Oh boy.
It was good.
Nice to be with you.
Enjoyed it, too.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the program. Remember, we're on every Friday evening at 7 o'clock. So be sure to tune in. Thank you and good night.
Access Fort Wayne offers reflections of our community. Production facilities provided by Access Fort Wayne are a service of the Allen County Public Library. The views and opinions expressed do not necessarily represent those of Access Fort Wayne.